Is everything around us an illusion created by some god to test us?
Yep.
Well, the modern version of that is the universe a computer game? Are we just dancing puppets?
What?
Obeying the laws of some computer out there in the universe? Is everything basically a fake? Well, that theory got a tremendous boost with the Matrix series. Because in the Matrix, what we thought was real was actually a computer simulation put into our brain by aliens. And so reality as we knew it was all wrong. Is that possible?
Soon it will be.
If you want to simulate the weather, for example, you have to simulate the motion of trillions upon trillions of atoms. No computer is that powerful that it can simulate the motion of trillions and trillions of atoms that just make up the atoms in this room.
This argument for us being in a simulation, probably being in a simulation, I think is the following. 40 years ago, we had Pong, like 2 rectangles and a dot. That was what games were. Now, 40 years later, we have photorealistic 3D simulations with millions of people playing simultaneously, and it's getting better every year. If you assume any rate of improvement at all, the games will become indistinguishable from reality. So given that we're clearly on our trajectory to have games that are indistinguishable from reality, and there would probably be, billions of such computers or set-top boxes, the odds that we're in base reality is 1 in billions.
If human beings keep going, we definitely will create a simulation. It's just a matter of time. So if that's the case, how do we know that we're not in one already? And we really don't. Every day we go to sleep, and every day we wake up, and we assume and we have faith that all that stuff that we remember is really how life went on before we were awake. But we really don't know. According to probability theory, it's more likely that we're in a simulation.
Maybe that's true.
You're assuming that all of the stuff that you know and all the stuff that you experience is 100% real. We are within 100 years away from making something that's indiscernible from what we experience every day. And that's inevitable. Unless we get disrupted by nature, unless we get hit with an asteroid or start a nuclear war, it's inevitable that technology reaches a point
If
where
we're living in
possible.
a simulated universe, Ruth, why do we feel pain? Why do we have emotion?
Well, some people will say that if they were to design the universe as a simulation, they wouldn't have any of those things. The problem is, if you remember the second and third Matrix movie, they revealed that the first version of the Matrix was one where everything was peaceful and blissful.
Right.
And the human mind didn't accept that as a full reality. And so it turns out we may need some element of struggle, just like in an Indiana Jones movie. Right? If Indy Jones just got the map at the beginning and it said, here's the Ark of the Covenant, go get it, well, that doesn't make for a very interesting movie. And so when we design video games, we have to create levels and achievements and quests of increasing difficulty. And so, the pain and the disappointments and the suffering that are there are built into the game, I believe, as obstacles or challenges for us to overcome as we level up.
If this is
You're gonna make these people believe that this fake rubber prop is actually their real arm. No way, bro.
surely this won't work.
Your brain starts to connect the fake arm sensations and make them real. Do you feel this?
Yeah.
And that?
Yes.
I place it over here. How does that feel? Keep in mind, there's no science happening. What do you feel?
Nothing.
Or feel an ice cube resting on top of your head?
No.
For the pain test, you feel that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I can feel it. Nothing.
Do you feel that?
No.
How about that?
No.
Anything now?
That's crazy, Ted.
Poder da mente. sucker.
The which color doesn't belong here? It seems obvious, right? These are two women from the Himba tribe, an indigenous people of about 50,000 from Namibia, South Africa, and they don't have a word for the color blue, and therefore they cannot distinguish between blue and green. I'm gonna say that again. They don't have a word for the color blue, and therefore cannot distinguish between blue and green. What does this mean? It means what I've been telling you guys all along, that your language determines your reality. This is known as the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. Now, I'm not religious, but I know that in the Bible, it says that life and death are in the tongue. Thou shalt decree a thing, and it shall be established. So if you want to change your life, you must start by eliminating all low vibrational words and phrases. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. No, not lose, learn. You don't have to go to work, you get to go to work. You didn't have a bad day, you had a character building day. Listen, if you want to change your life, the easiest way is by changing your
like the reason you never see
It makes
your
you wonder.
neighbors bring in groceries. You ever hear that theory? Dennis, I'm serious. Have you ever seen your neighbors bringing groceries?
I never see my neighbors bringing groceries.
Take this in. So there's a theory that the reason you never see your neighbors bringing groceries is because it is a simulation, and that's not something that appeals to you that you want to see. It's not something that you're looking forward to seeing, you know what I mean? So there's a theory, the people that do see their neighbors bringing groceries is that they've interacted with the quote-unquote the bots. So let's say you're playing a game. And then you interact with a character. Once you interact with that character, they become part of your story.
Like they start talking and all that.
Yeah, they become part of your game, your quote-unquote your life. The only time you'll ever see your neighbors bringing groceries is if you interact with them to that point. And then they become part of the story. Become part of the story.
That's crazy.
In a simulation.
Yeah, bud.
Then I talked to some colleagues, did some more reading, and now I feel a little better that we're probably not. The argument for it was you get a real universe, and then people in there get really smart and they program computers and they create worlds. And the people in that world don't know that they're fake, all right? And then they evolve and they develop computers and they create a world, and they create a world. And this goes all the way down. And so there's the real world and all the worlds that can create worlds, except the last one, which is still working on it. Eventually they'll get there. All right, throw a dart. Chances are you're going to hit a world that's simulated. That's us. But we don't know how to make an actual simulated world where everybody thinks it's real. So either we're the last of those worlds that's still working on it, or we're the first one.
Look at this piece of wire. Now, from very far away, this wire would look like it's one-dimensional. In that, for instance, if a little ant was living on it, you'd say, well, it can move left and right along the wire, but that's it. There's only one possibility. But then as you get closer to the wire, you realize that there's a second curled up circular dimension, the circular girth of the wire. And therefore, our microscopic ant can not only go back and forth, it can also walk around the wire, a second curled up dimension. Now, what the idea is, according to string theory, is that the fabric of the universe is much like this piece of wire, and that there are the familiar dimensions that you referred to. Left, right, back, forth, up and down, and also time. But there can be additional dimensions that are tightly curled up like the circular girth of the wire and are so small that we haven't seen them yet, because we don't have sufficient magnifying instruments to actually peer down into the nooks and crannies of the spatial fabric
Bubble slit
and see these
experiment is
extra
one of the most
dimensions.
famous and yet bizarre experiments in quantum physics. You have two slits and a back wall. If we were to push something like sand through, it would line up pretty evenly in two rows. But if we send a wave through, then the back wall has this interference pattern. Sound waves work like this, and light waves from light bulbs. But in 1905, Einstein said light is made of particles, photons. So do photons act like particles or waves? Here's where it gets interesting. When a particle is shot through one at a time, it lands in a specific spot, like a grain of sand. But if you keep firing the photons, you eventually get this interference pattern like a wave. The Copenhagen interpretation says that a quantum particle, like an electron, does not travel as a particle or a wave, but in all states at the same time. So, as a probability. Einstein hated this. He famously said, God does not play with dice. But light behaves as both a particle
not
and a wave.
locally real. What does this mean and why do I care? Let me explain this in a way that you will understand. In the quantum world, objects and particles don't have definite states until you measure it. So until you measure a particle, you don't know what it is. It exists in all kinds of different states at the same time, but until you measure it, it becomes, bam, a definite particle. But even crazier, and bear with me, you will understand this. If I take two particles, one with an up state and one with a down state, and I separate them, no matter how far, you'll know that this one is up and the other one must be down, or they're opposites. But the spooky part is that quantum mechanics says you don't know the state of those particles until they are measured. So if you take those two particles and then you separate them, you measure this one to be up, the other one is down. But if you measure those particles again, this one becomes down, the other one becomes up instantaneously, no matter how far away they are. Now, Einstein said, okay, of course, there's something happening in the particle that connects them, right? That determines their states before they're measured. But in the 1970s, he did an experiment that proved that incorrect. There can't be hidden variables, and that's why they won the Nobel Prize a few months ago. What does this mean for you and me? Well, what this means is that the same quantum mechanical laws that apply to those particles apply to all particles, including you and me. So what this means is that our universe works quantum mechanically. Just as you don't know the state of a particle until you measure it, you don't know the state of any object in the universe until you measure it. This includes things like you, me, galaxies, bananas, iPads, iPhones. You don't know the state of anything until you measure or observe it. Now, a lot of people say, well, this has to do with consciousness. No, it has to do with any interaction, any entanglement at all. Nobody understands what's happening here. There's something deeper going on about the universe that nobody understands, and we still don't know why. When you measure something, it changes. Why? If somebody can discover that in our lifetimes, it will change science.
Ain't no way everyone here is a real person. Life is a simulation and a legitimate professor has proved it. James Gates, a theoretical physicist at MIT with 2 bachelor degrees and a PhD, found literal computer code embedded in the most fundamental building blocks of reality called strings. Now, string theory is a tough one, but I'm gonna break it down for you in a way that an 11-year-old would understand. So if you don't get this, hey, go back to grade 5, bruh. Alright, so we got my boy Einstein's theory of general relativity, which is basically just a theory of everything big. Planets, gravity, the universe, all the way back to the Big Bang. Then we got the new kid in town, quantum physics. This is the theory of everything small, like particles, atoms, and molecules, where the general laws of physics like gravity don't apply anymore. The same is true the other way around. Quantum laws don't apply to regular-sized physics. So we got general relativity, everything big, and quantum physics, everything small. Like, yo, dig. But both of these realms have the same parent, the Big Bang, at which point everything that is now big used to be small. If the small can become big, then quantum and general relativity need some sort of theory that can unify them. That is string theory. What happens to the big when it's small? What happens when you zoom into an atom? You see protons and neutrons in the center with electrons all around it. Now, what about inside a neutron? Even smaller particles called quarks. So how deep does the scale go? Conventional science will tell you there's nothing inside these quarks. But string theory suggests there's a tiny filament or a string of pure energy that exists inside of them. And just like the string of a guitar vibrates and creates different sound based on its shape and tension, the strings in string theory vibrate. But instead of sound, they produce matter in the form of particles. This completely changes the way you look at the world. Every particle in the universe is just a string vibrating at a different frequency, and every vibrational pattern has its own associated particle. So if you break anything down far enough, we're all just energy vibrating at differing wavelengths to form matter. Although it's still just a theory, this would link general relativity to the quantum realm and form what is known as the theory of everything. Okay, yeah, cool. Now where is this computer code found? When Dr. James Gates took a look at a set of equations derived from string theory, he found binary code, error correcting code used for compressing data on a computer. A sequence of ones and zeros, the same code that is used by popular search engines, which according to him, who has a PhD in theoretical physics from MIT, doesn't just resemble computer code, it literally is computer code. Meaning, if we break matter and energy down far enough, we eventually find compressing computer code etched into the very fabric of reality. So who wrote this code? Are we living in, dare I say,
what happens
a
when
simulation?
you die. According to near-death experiences in several religions, the moment after you die, your soul will separate from your body. Your memories will fade as you will be pulled into a dark tunnel and drawn towards a bright light. It is said that within this light, you will sense your deceased loved ones, divine spirits, and an infinite amount of love. But what if you don't go towards that light? In one sacred myth, they say that the light is a trap for the soul, set up by demonic forces. These demons, also known as archons, use the light to disguise themselves as your deceased loved ones, gods, and truth in order to draw your soul in. Once you are consumed by the light, They will use several different spiritual tactics to trick you to coming back to Earth. These demons do this because they feed on human suffering, so they need your soul to come back as many times as possible in order to harness and harvest your energy. Most humans fall victim to this soul trap and find themselves becoming a prisoner to the light. And so if you decide not to go towards the light and instead move towards the infinite dark void, you will be freed from the prison of reincarnation and return to your true home, where you will realize the true infinite potential of your soul. From this point, you will be given the option to travel to whatever other realm or dimension you so choose. So after you die, you should be very careful before looking
When I was
at that light.
25, I had a really good friend who invited me to go hiking, and I couldn't go. I found out that on this weekend he went hiking, he fell off a cliff, and he passed away. After about 9 years, I started sensing his presence again, and I mentioned it, and they said, well, you should have a past life regression. I saw that I had known this person in 3 lives, one in the 1800s. I was this big man coming back to the cabin, and this person was my wife, and we had some kids. Somebody had killed the family while I was gone. And then at the turn of the century, I was a little girl, and I saw that he was my sister, and he died of some flu. And then I saw myself in 1942. There was a birth, that was me, I was being born, but the mother died in childbirth, and that was him again. You start to see, oh, wait a minute, there's a pattern, I'm here, this person keeps going away, and it was so profound. I said, you know what, I don't have to think about that anymore.
Did you know that
peace
this
about
little boy, Cameron Macaulay, lived twice? That's right, it's another reincarnation story, and this one is mind-blowing. Cameron Macaulay was born and raised in Glasgow in Scotland, but from the age of 2 years old, he would tell his family all about his previous life on the island of Barra, which is an island off the west coast of Scotland. Cameron lived with his mum, Norma, and they had lived in Glasgow all of his life, and they'd never even been to Barra. Barra was 200 miles away from Glasgow. To get there, it would have taken them an hour by plane and even longer by sea. But Cameron was insistent, so he told his mother all about the white house that they used to live in, the house that overlooked the sea. He would talk about how planes used to land on the beach, and he talked about how much he loved his little black and white dog. Cameron told his mum that his dad, when he lived on the island, was a man named Shane Robertson, and he had died after being hit by a car because, in Cameron's exact words, he hadn't looked both ways. He would complain about the toilets on the island of Barra. He would say that his parents had 3 toilets and that he missed his mother and his siblings, and he would get really upset that he had to leave his mother. Eventually, he was escorted to the island by a man named Dr. Jim Tucker, who was a child psychologist. And on the way there on the plane, Cameron was so excited, he was jumping up and down going, I'm going home, I'm going home. He told everybody that he couldn't wait to see his mother, that she had long brown hair all the way down her back, and that she had read him Bible stories. Now, in his real life, Cameron and his mother, Norma, they weren't religious people, and Norma had never exposed him to anything religious, and she never read to him from the Bible. They got to a place where they thought Cameron might be talking about, but when they got there, they realised there was no white house overlooking the bay, and there was no house owned by a Robertson family, so they were really disappointed. Until they thought, maybe we should try the other side of the island, and sure enough, they got confirmation that there was a Robertson family living on the other side of the island. They got into the car to go there. They didn't tell Cameron where they were going, but when they arrived, he jumped out of the car and immediately ran to this white house. When they went into the house, Cameron ran around, showing everybody all the rooms that he used to live in, showed everybody the 3 toilets that did indeed exist in this house, took everybody out to the garden to show them the secret garden gate that he had spoken about for years. When the researchers found the surviving members of the Robertson family, who had since moved away, they were able to get their hands on some photos of the car that the Robertson family drove and photos of the dog. And guess what? They were exactly the same as Cameron had described. Interestingly though, the researchers could find no information about this Shane Robertson person who allegedly had been hit by a car. Also interestingly, Cameron used to say to his mother and people around him, don't worry about dying because you just come back again. He also used to say to his mum when she would ask him how he got there, he would say, I fell through and went into your tummy.
This girl is 500 years old and could be coming back to life. Nah, what the hell is happening? This is 100% true. You're not going to believe this, but this is 100% true and absolutely flipping mental. But this girl died 500 years ago. She was actually sacrificed. And she was kept in this condition because she was actually frozen and kept over 6,000 meters above sea level, so that's how. She was actually found back in 1999 at the top of the Lulacano volcano. And I mean, obviously, a bit of a shock when you find that. She's been preserved by scientists ever since then who have been monitoring and doing investigation. Yeah, this is where it gets even crazier. So the Argentinian scientists where she was found have been running some tests. And apparently, now, I don't know what to make of this. I really, really don't. Apparently, she still has some of her organs and still has some blood in her.
What?
What? Some scientists are saying that she could wake up at any moment. I'm not sure what I think of that. Be like the first cryogenically frozen person to wake up. This is ridiculous. Hit that follow button.
But alien landed right in front of us and said to you, Theo, take me to your leader. Are you going to take him to the White House?
No.
Of course not. Are you going to take him to Congress? No.
That's a great question.
That's my point. If I were not a scientist, I would take him to a scientist.
You would?
Yes. A biologist or a physicist.
I'd give him a treat first, I think. You'd have to,
A
right?
treat? They're not a pet. They just flew here in a ship way more advanced than anything we've ever conceived. You're gonna, here's a chew toy. That's not gonna do.
I'm just saying, you gotta give him a little...
You'll be the first human zapped by an alien laser.
You hit him with that Snicker? No, you good.
They're your friend forever.
You good forever, bro. Dude, Reese's. Bro, he'd bring his friends next week.
Now, you give a Reese's to an alien, it's gonna get diabetes. How do you know it can handle it?
That's true.
This is some pretty...
That's a good point, bro. Now he's stuck. What if he becomes all lazy and stuff when you start getting him acclimated?
It's fat and lazy on Earth.
That has to be a movie, right? Was there a movie like that?
So I bounce a ball and tape and
That's a good question.
So I drop it and I catch it again. So let's say I drop it and it takes a second to bounce up. So in that second, the Earth has moved about 18 miles or so in space around the sun. So you could ask the question, did that ball return to the same place in space or not? And the answer is, you can't answer it. It does from our perspective. But from the perspective of someone watching the Earth go all the way around the sun, when I caught it again, it had moved 18 miles. And then from some other perspective, it would have done something else. So the point is, you can't say this is a point in space. It came back to the same place, because that just depends on your perspective. It depends on whether you're watching the sun, the Earth go around the sun, or whatever it is. So Einstein said that means there's no such thing as absolute space, which kind of follows if you think about it. That's it's a cool but difficult thought process.
Right. I mean, that's essentially what's happening when you're on a plane. If you're throwing a ball up in the air and catching it on the plane, it's happening
The
on
Earth
a
is
much
not
smaller
moving.
scale.
According to the Bible, the Earth is at rest. If you look at the NASA logo, you can see it is the tongue of a serpent. And the serpent is a deceiver. As far as NASA is concerned, Earth travels about 1.6 million miles per day. So that's 66,627 miles per hour. 666. You better open your eyes. So the sun, the moon, and the galaxy are moving too. All of these things are zooming through space, according to NASA. Look at Zechariah chapter 1, verse 11. We have walked to and fro through the earth, and behold, all the earth sits still and is at rest. So the earth is not moving. According to the Bible, the earth is at rest. In Psalms 96, verse 10, the Bible says, the world also shall be established, that it shall not be moved. Then there's 1 Chronicles chapter 16, verse 30. The world also shall be stable, that it be not moved. The earth does not move. It is perfectly still, it is perfectly flat, and is covered with
According to the
dome.
Bible, the earth is only around 6,000 years old. Is there any evidence to support that?
Indeed there is. The population of the world today is about 8 billion people. Do you know if you start with 6 people, Shem, Ham and Japheth, Noah's 3 sons and their 3 wives, and let that population grow at the rate of about 0.5%, which is very conservative, for 4,500 years, that's how long ago the flood was, we get 8 billion. So the Bible's record of history is exactly consistent with the population of the world.
Yep.
We find soft tissue in dinosaur bones showing that they cannot be millions of years old, including the presence of carbon-14 in dinosaur bones. Once again, consistent with an age of only a few thousand
been living there
years.
for 2,500 years. There is one continent inside the earth and one ocean. Their capital city is built around the original lost Garden of Eden. The vegetation grows like a paradise. The people live to be up to 800 years old. They communicate with telepathy. The inner earth people have built these androids that fly their flying saucers out to reconnoiter the outer Earth. Our government has been knocking flying saucers out of the sky and back engineering these flying saucers. The people that live in the Hollow Earth are not extraterrestrials. They're from the lost tribes
Do
of
some
Israel.
scientific research and you'll discover that the idea that the Earth is like billions of years old is totally impossible, and the theory of evolution is not backed up by any scientific science whatsoever. The more you look into it, the more you realize that the King James Bible is 100% true, and according to the King James Bible, the Earth was created 6,000 years ago. Adam and Eve were the first humans, and they were created, and Satan is now trying to destroy every descendant of Adam and Eve. He will therefore have wiped out mankind. And that's what this transhumanism crap is about, because when we start taking on elements of machines, we are no longer human, and Satan's done his job. He's wiped out all of Adam and Eve's
what's good?
descendants.
Hey, look, so according to this old Bible, they say the earth is only 6,000 years old, man. So that's crazy, man. Like they said, the earth is only 6,000 years old. So we gonna see, man. I'm gonna let y'all be the judge of this, because it's looking like it's making a lot of sense to me. I'm gonna let y'all be the judge, though. Check this out.
1813 has something very interesting. It is a facts page that contains a list of people and events in chronological order. It says, whereupon we reckon that from Adam unto Christ are 3,947 years, 6 months and 10 days. And from the birth of Christ to this present year is 1814 years. Then the whole sum and number of years, from the beginning of the world unto this present year is 5,788, 6 months.
Crazy.
And the said are 10 days. In the year 1814 the world really was 5,788 years old. This year, 2022, the Earth would be approximately 5,998 years old.
So in 2022, that means that they said, according to the Bible, the earth is 5,998 years. So that means 2023, 5,999. 24 is what? 6,000 years. No, it took the Most High 6 days, no saying, to create the earth. 6,000 means completion. Christ, 1,000-year reign, 7,000 years. Think about it.
What is up? What is up? What is up? Hopefully you're having a wonderful day, whoever you are, wherever you are. I always say, stay to the positive, never to the negative. Always remember that. Go up in the day, baby. You play, you only get one life to live. You better live it for today. That's facts. Stay ablazing, stay amazing, stay true, stay you. No matter what you're doing.